The intent of this video is to be used in conjunction with training at your local dojo. What we're going to be covering is the requirements and the techniques necessary for advancement to the different belt levels. In this case, yellow belt. The techniques we're going to look at are wrist releases, Senpo Kaiten forward roll and break fall, Hikyo Toshi, the katas, Taikyoku Shodan, and Heian Shodan. You're going to see various members of this dojo assisting in putting this videotape together to help you achieve your goals in advancement to the next level. Let's open this segment by reviewing basic techniques, front stances, punches, and blocks. The techniques that you're going to need to know to perform the kata Taikyoku Shodan. In this case, we have our student standing in a natural stance. He's now going to step out into a left front stance. Now, pay attention to the distance between the feet, between his left foot and his right foot, being equal to his shoulder width at a minimum. The front foot is straight, the knee is bent, 60% of the weight is on the forward knee, the back leg is straight and locked, and the back foot is at a 45-degree angle. As he frames to move forward, bringing his feet together, he tries to maintain his relativity angle of the knees here. And now stepping out and to the outside, the foot came forward and to the outside into a front stance. Driving himself forward, extending the leg. Now, this left leg, which was the forward leg before, being the rear leg, is at a 45-degree angle, and the right leg is straight. Now let's rotate that front stance 90 degrees so that you can see it from a side view. Now, see the weight distribution on the forward foot and on the back leg. The back leg being straight, the foot at 45-degree angle, front leg knee bent, foot straight. Let's take a look at middle punching techniques. Hands framed at the hips, and extend the hands out. Last thing happening is the wrist turning over. This is the striking portion here. The only portion we're going to use to be striking the techniques with. Here, this portion. So you want to focus. This portion of the hand should be flat and parallel with the floor. Remember, this is the striking surface of the fist. Okay, let's bring the hands back again and take a look at that. Keeping the elbows in as close to the chest as possible, bringing the hands forward, and at the last second, the wrist turn over. And now let's alternate, bringing the right hand back, and we're going to push forward and punch with the right hand, simultaneously bringing the left hand back. And at the same time, the wrists are turning over at the end of the stroke. Let's take a look at that again. Out and twist, and back, and twist. And as you notice, the left hand turned over exactly at the same time as the right hand turned over at the completion of the punching technique. Now let's take a look at the lower block. Framing position, the left hand is on the right shoulder. The little finger of the left hand is against the shoulder. This ensures that as the block comes down through its motion, that the contact is made with the back of the forearm. Back of the forearm is what makes contact. At the very end of the technique, once again, the cutting action, the wrist twists, just as we did at the end of our punching technique. Let's take a look at it again as we frame. In this case, the right hand is on the left shoulder, the little finger is down. And now we bring the technique down, making contact with the back of the forearm, pushing the technique aside, and then cutting to our finished position. Very good. Taikyoku Shodan. Taikyoku Shodan. Ready? Yoi. See-ya! 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 Ready? In this portion of the video, we're going to look at the escapes and release techniques and requirements for the yellow belt examination. In this case, we're going to look at the direct wrist grab, where my attacker reaches directly across his body. Here, the right arm going to my left wrist and captures the wrist. At this point, we want to bring the hands together as if clapping, holding in this position. And now, moving the right foot to the rear to generate power away from the attacker. Pull the hands straight up over your right shoulder, working against the fingers and the thumb of the attacker. Let's take a look at it again more closely. As he attacks, we grab. I've already moved my right foot to the rear. Now, as I'm pulling the hand up, you can clearly see how the forearm is working against the thumb and the fingers of the attacker as it pops out, and I'm free. At this point, I have the ability to flee or use any alternate type technique that I wish to do. Now, let's take a look at it from the other side. Now, in this case, direct hand. His left hand is grabbing my right wrist. We're doing exactly the same thing. The hands coming together in a gripping position. Now the left foot goes to the rear. As I pull the hand up over my left shoulder, you'll see how the forearm is working against the thumb and the fingers of the attacker as I break free. Once again, having the ability to flee to the rear or using some type of alternate attack. The second technique we're going to look at is the cross wrist grab. In this case, the attacker is reaching across his body and also across my body. Now we're going to use the same gripping position with the hands. Once again, the hands come together. Now, to release, I'm going to rotate my captured wrist clockwise or in the direction of the captured thumb in a large circle. As I reach the top, I want to move my weight once again to the rear by using the right foot and pulling down to escape. Once again, being able to flee because I have released. Let's look at that again in more detail. As the hands come together, we're going to go in the direction of the captured thumb, in this case clockwise, rotating up to the top. Now watch how the hand works against the attacker's thumb and fingers. As we step back and come down, you can now see the forearm starting to come out of his grip as we're able to flee. Let's take a look at the other hand, the other side. In this case, his left hand coming across to my left hand, across the body. Same positioning. Clasp the hands together. Now in this case, we're going to go counterclockwise or the direction of the captured thumb. In this case, I'm going to use my left leg to move back to generate power. Bringing the hand up in a large circle and down. Once more, let's take a look at it. The hands come together and now in the direction of the captured thumb. Counterclockwise up to the top, you can see the hand starting to rotate free, and now you can see the exposure of the forearm and the fingers and thumb. At this point, we continue on down, working against the wrist and the fingers here to pop free. Also pulling the attacker off balance and giving myself the ability to flee. Okay? Let's take a look at it from the opposite side again so we can get a close-up view. As he grabs, bring the hands together, prepare to move to the rear with the right foot, driving up, over the top, and as we can come down, you can see now that the wrist is turned over, the forearm is twisted. The power in the wrist is gone. The fingers are starting to open up, and as we push down, they open. They open, and now I have the ability to flee. Now again. At this point, we'd like to walk you through the basic steps of performing the technique Hikyotoshi. As our attacker is going to attack, as he attacks us, step in, bring the hands up over his shoulders. Now don't worry about the technique itself, the punch, because since we advanced with our right leg, the technique is now behind us and will not strike us. At this point, move forward, bringing the left foot behind the right to set up the spin. And spin. As I spin, I capture his left arm with my hand here and holding his wrist with my upper arm. At this point, dropping down on the right knee and performing a hammer fist strike to the solar plexus. Okay, let's take a look at it again. As the attacker attacks, move in as if you're going to hug him. Hands are over his shoulders. Bring the left foot behind the right. Spin 360 degrees all the way around. Dropping down on the right knee, striking to the solar plexus with the hammer fist. And let's take a look at it from the reverse angle. Once again, as you attack, step in, hands up. Right foot behind the left, spin the 360 degrees around, bringing him down to the floor, capturing his upper arm, and hammer fist to the solar plexus. Executing an atemi to knock the wind out of him so that he will be incapacitated to give us a chance to escape or to do any follow-up technique that we desire. Let's take a look at the theory behind the technique, Hikyotoshi. Here we'll use a black circle to represent the attack of the roundhouse punch by the attacker. Let's use the intersecting red circle to represent the defensive motion by the defender. As you remember, he stepped in with his right foot and captured the roundhouse punch as it came in. His spinning motion adds to the force of the original punch from the attacker, pulling him forward and out of his original orbit. So as he brings his lead foot forward and tries to stop himself, he's pulled forward, off balance, and taken down to the floor. And this allows the defender to continue the attack and terminate the situation. Now I'd like to take a look at Senpo Kaiten, forward roll, as we prepare the student to learn how to roll and then how to break fall, getting ready to be able to do sweeping, reaping, and throwing techniques. We're going to take the student and have them get in position and demonstrate for you how we're going to do the forward roll and the basic components of it. Okay? From this position, the student gets into a normal right foot forward front stance, putting the left hand on the mat, even with the right foot. Now the right hand comes down on the floor in a blade position, as you can see here. Now the key element is, as the student goes over, that this arm remain locked in this position and not bend at the elbow, therefore allowing the weight to crash on the shoulder, but allowing the student to roll, just like the semicircle, half a ball, up the arm, across the shoulder, back over the back, and down the left hip. At this point, the student will roll forward, looking over their left shoulder to ensure that the head is outside of the circle. Okay, let's go through the technique. Now, as you can see, the momentum of the roll brings the student up onto his knee or up onto his feet, whichever way he wishes to do this. So at this point, at this level of practice, let's do it so the student comes up on his foot, ready to continue to defend himself. Okay, Mr. Damon, once again, right foot forward, left hand on the floor, and the right hand is in the position here, okay, and over the top. Very good. And Mr. Damon, back into position. Right foot is forward, left hand is on the mat. The left hand is even with the right foot. The position of the left hand will determine the direction that the student rolls into, whether it be left, right, or straight ahead. Now the right hand is in an arched position with the elbow bent, arched position. Now the weight will travel around the outside of this arm, across the shoulder, across the back, and down over the left hip. Coming in this position now minimizes contact of the backbone, the spinal column, to the floor. Right over the top. And as you notice, the head stays on the outside of the circle. The student comes up into a position which he continue to travel forward to flee whichever he wishes to do. Let's do it once more on your own to demonstrate it. Okay, there. Building up the speed. Once more in slow motion. Let's slow it way down for the students so they can pick up the technique. Very good. Now, let's add the break fall to terminate the forward momentum of the body. The break fall is the beginning part of the training to be able to take the throws that we're going to be looking at without injuring any parts of your shoulders or your back or your hips. Okay, we get back into the forward roll position. Now, as we go over the top, watch how he strikes the mat with his left hand to absorb that forward energy, and with his feet. Now look at the position he's in. The right hand is on the left shoulder. By bringing the right hand to the left shoulder, this ensures that the student will land on his side. Once again, minimizing exposure of the backbone, the spine, to any impact into the floor. The left leg is extended. The right foot is on the flat of the foot to absorb energy. Also, keeping the knees from banging together as the student finishes the forward roll. The left hand comes down from a framing position similar to a lower block and strikes the mat with the palm of the hand, even with the hips, with the belt, therefore absorbing the energy. When we did the technique before, we saw the student roll up onto his feet and his knees. What's happened now is that forward momentum has been absorbed by the break fall of the hand and by the break fall of the feet. Okay, let's take a look at that technique again. Now let's take a look at the practical application of break falling. We'll take a look at a couple of easy techniques here to show you how the break fall falls into place. As the student attacks, we're going to move in and do hip throw, and watch how Mr. Damon executes his break fall. Once again, striking the mat with the hand and with the feet to take the impact of the fall, not on his back, but on his hands, on his feet. Once more, we'll try to slow it down for you. Let's continue with forward rolls, Empok I-10 from this position, but at this time let's add the break falling portion. Mr. Damon? Now let's move in and take a look at the finished position, ending position. You can see that the right hand has come over to the left shoulder to ensure that the body lands on the side, not on the back, thus not exposing the spine to any impact from the throw. The left hand has come down from the framing position, striking the mat on the palm to absorb the energy. Now you can see the positioning of the left hand to the hips. Here, the left leg is straight, the right leg is bent at the knee, and the flat of the foot has landed on the floor. This ensures that the knees do not strike together. At this point, I'd like to cover the basic techniques that you're going to need to know to accomplish the kata Heian Shodan. The first technique we're going to look at is the pressing block that we do on the opening movement. As the attacker steps in and attacks with the middle punch, we're going to counter by doing a pressing block. Here, striking the forearm, into the forearm before he has a chance to extend his punch all the way out. Let's take a look at it again. As he attacks, round and down. Notice the positioning of the body and the knees. The weight has dropped down into the arm. Now let's take a look at the third technique in the sequence, which is the takeaway. As I turn to do the lower block, just as I did in Taekwondo Shodan, blocking, the attacker reaches underneath and grabs my right wrist. In preparation of setting up an arm bar, since his right arm is already in position, he slides it up to the elbow and applies the arm bar technique. So as I block, and he does that grabbing, wrist grabbing, I want to snap my arm to the outside to free it. And now counter by striking to the chin. Let's take a look at that again. As I turn in and block, he grabs the wrist. Now notice I pop the left knee to the outside to generate some more power, throw my weight over my right shoulder to the outside and pop that hand out. And now snap up, thrusting to the chin, and then driving in and punching with the middle punch as we did before in Taekwondo Shodan. Right, now let's take a look at the rising blocks that we're going to be using going up and down the middle. Okay? Up and down the middle. As the person steps in and attacks, I want to bring my hand and drive his technique upward. Driving his technique upward as we go up and down the middle. Let's take a look at the basic technique and see how it's done by component. From here, the releasing hand is up pointing at the target. The blocking hand is framed at the hip. As the releasing hand comes down, the blocking hand rises up to frame position and blocks upward. As you'll notice, the block itself is out at a 45-degree angle, not pushing upward, but deflecting out. So I put my releasing hand up, frame the framing hand at the hip, and now up and block. Once again, frame and block. Up and block. Let's take a look at it a couple times at full speed. Framing and block. And block. Framing position and block. Now let's go on and take a look at the back stance and the back knife hand block. Now let's take a look at the stances that are required. In this case, the only new stance we're going to take a look at is the back stance. All right? Let's take a look at it from a front angle. Left foot's forward. Now here you can see the left foot is straight and pointing directly at the attacker. The right foot is back at a 45-degree angle, pointing out here to the side. It is 135 degrees opposed to the left foot. You can see that the weight is down. 70% of the weight is in the back leg, 30% is in the front leg, thus a back stance or backward leaning stance. The hips are open to the side. Now let's take a look at the side view of it. Once again, the front foot is straight, and here you can see that the rear foot is out at a 45-degree angle here. Actually 135 degrees difference between the 2 feet. 70% of the weight is on the back leg, and 30% is on the front leg. The hips are open, pointing at a 45-degree angle. All right. Now let's take a look at the back knife hand block that we're going to execute on the last 4 movements of Heian Shodan. From here, we're going to frame the releasing hand. The left hand is forward. The blocking hand is framed at the left shoulder. You can see that the hand is turned upside down with the knuckles against the shoulder. Once again, remember the rule that the hands travel opposite directions on the same plane. As we block with the right hand, we release with the left hand back to the hip. The blocking hand is coming across in a sideways motion to deflect any technique coming in to this area of the body. Let's frame again and execute. And frame again and execute. Here you can see the releasing hand is drawing back to a position just above the solar plexus. Now let's take the 2 techniques together, the back stance and the back knife hand block, executed simultaneously. And back again, and block. Back, and step out and block. Thank you. Let's rotate that technique 90 degrees so that you can see it from the side view. Very good. Gençler. Gençler. Siyah. 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 Oui. 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 Ça. Siyah. Siyah. Schön. Her. Her.
Sue!